It's Pride Month in New York City. That means it's time for the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Puerto Rico is a colony of the United States, and the people of Puerto Rico know how to party. Puerto Rico was originally a colony of Spain. That's why they speak Spanish there. But when another colony of Spain, Cuba, was fighting Spain for their independence, the United States realized that Cuba was about to win the war and they could move in and take all of Spain's territory. So what was known as the Cuban-Spanish War became the Spanish-American War. The United States left their troops in Cuba, enforcing a military dictatorship, and then they invaded Puerto Rico and the Philippines and Guam. Don't forget about Guam. The United States still owns Guam. Look how far away it is on a map. And when Filipinos armed themselves and rose up against the United States, one general enacted a kill every boy over 10 rule, which killed every boy on this island in the Philippines over 10 years of age. So that was the nature of the colonizers who took over Puerto Rico over 100 years ago. American capitalists who didn't even live in Puerto Rico began to buy up all of its land. They were doing this in Cuba as well, turning both of these islands into giant sugar plantations. Slavery was abolished, but many likened the realities of these plantation workers to slavery because they were paid in plantation tokens that could only be spent at the plantation grocery stores, and they were forever trapped in debt to the plantation owners. Any strikes, resistance, or uprisings were violently suppressed. And because the whole island was growing mostly sugar now, they had to rely on the United States as their main importer to get the things that they needed. Puerto Ricans were barely paid anything, and so that meant that they were too poor to own their own land. Soon, only 4 companies owned half of the arable land in all of Puerto Rico. The United States made it illegal to support Puerto Rican independence movements. And then in 1948, they created a law that even made it illegal to fly the Puerto Rican flag. If you ever wonder why Puerto Ricans love flying their flag so much, that's probably why. And every year that I go to the Puerto Rican Day Parade, I see more and more Boricua flags, which is the black and white version of the Puerto Rico flag. This flag represents the anti-colonial struggle of the Puerto Rican people. Because the United States wasn't investing in Puerto Rico and just extracting wealth, they were kept in poverty. And to their colonizers, it looked like Puerto Rico had a population problem. In the 50s and 60s, the United States began to experiment with birth control on Puerto Rican women. And by the late 1960s, over 1/3 of Puerto Rican women had been sterilized. And a lot of that was done without their consent or without informing them on what the procedure was. And the United States government started encouraging Puerto Ricans to migrate into the United States to work for very low wages. And they also started heavily recruiting for the military in Puerto Rico because they were so much more economically desperate. Now, if you go to San Juan in Puerto Rico, you will see all of the white capitalists who are moving there so that they don't have to pay taxes. There are all kinds of tax incentives that basically let rich people get away with not paying their fair share, but it's not actually helping the Puerto Rican economy. Like, we already know that trickle-down economics didn't work when Reagan tried it. And having no representation in federal government has consequences. When Hurricane Maria happened, the US government completely neglected the needs of the Puerto Rican people. You can't tell me that the richest country in the history of the world would send their president to throw paper towels at people if it was an English-speaking white area that had congressional representation. To this day, Puerto Ricans still do not have senators or congresspeople, and they cannot vote for president. But they can fly their flags, and they will take over the street every Puerto Rican Day here in New York City. Also, I want to point out that the police shut down an after party at a bar nearby, and they were violent to the people there, including women.